Hey there, Pod Pals. Are you a print-on-demand creator looking to stay ahead of the curve? You want to know exactly when to launch your designs for every key season and event? How about a chuckle with an extra dad joke to brighten your day? If you said yes to any of these, then it's time to join the Print on Demand Cast VIP list. As a VIP, you'll get our free annual design calendar, an amazing guide to help you time your creations perfectly throughout the year. And of course, we'll include a bonus dad joke each week as well. Signing up couldn't be easier. Just visit printondemandcast.com/VIP and enter your email. Don't let another day of potential pass you by. Become a part of the VIP list, grab your annual design calendar, and let's dive into a year of inspired creating together. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. This week, we're going to be talking about 5 reasons your POD business is ready to grow. Let's get into it.
If you're looking for a podcast that's fun, the Print on Demand Cast is second to none. Travis and Josiah, they keep it real. Dishing out advice with a comic appeal. The Print on Demand Cast, it's the best of the best. Covering all things print on demand. You won't be stressed. Weekly dad jokes to make you groan. But you'll keep coming back if the hit you've been shown.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Print on Demand Cast. It is great to be back with you, and joining me, as always, is Travis Ross from Make Your Mark Design. Travis, happy month. Is today Tuesday? It is Tuesday.
All day.
We're all day, and it'll be Tuesday again next week, all day. We're recording uncharacteristically early for us, which is like 9:30. It's not like, the crack of dawn or anything like that, but early nonetheless. But it's great to be back with you guys. Last week, my day job prevented me from being able to join Travis on the recording. It's a little bit kind of like, when there's business to be had, you go do that, and you just can't say no. A little feast or famine, but I digress. But
welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be back. And dude, last week's show, Self-Sabotage, episode 205. If you guys haven't listened to that one, highly encourage you do so, because I thought it was absolutely stellar. I even text Travis offline after I listened to the episode and kind of gave my feedback, and just really thought it was a really good show, a different pace for us, I think, which I enjoy the more that's not the right term, but ones that are a little bit more existential, talking about some things that maybe aren't necessarily specific to logistics and process of business, but the mindset and the attitude and the approach and that kind of stuff. I love talking about that. So I loved that was a topic of the show last week, and it went super, super well in my opinion. Travis, did you get any other feedback from anybody about kind of the content and what you shared, and just overall, how do you think that episode went?
Yeah, I mean, I asked in the Facebook group what people thought, and got a few people saying, they enjoyed it. Pretty much all the feedback I got was positive, but I didn't get a whole lot of it. So, I mean, there might be some people out there who are like, damn it, give us some practical tips. Quit talking about all this mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
But I think I told you it's probably my favorite episode I've recorded. It. I mean, part of it was my mindset going into it. I was excited. I was enthusiastic. And so I feel like my presentation was like, all right, this is awesome, but the topic itself, it's just something I'm kind of going through right now. I'm dealing with, looking at a lot of stuff, peeling back the curtain on my emotions and things like that. And if you haven't listened to it, I talk about my spiritual director and how he really, one of the things he says all the time is that we're always learning, practicing, and becoming. And I just love that concept, the whole idea that anything that happens in life or in business is an opportunity to learn And then we can take that learning and then we can practice our response to it, which will lead to us becoming, for lack of a better term, better. I even mentioned in this show, I don't like using that word because it relates to like an internal judgment that we've put on something or an expectation that we're going to arrive. I used to always want to, it took me a while to like name this, but I think I always wanted to be Travis 2.0. At some point I'm going to arrive. Sure. I'm going to get rid of all this crap that I don't like in my life, and I'm not going to have to deal with that anymore. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
Life is life, and there's going to be ups and downs. And the key, I think, really is to practice so you can become. You learn from all this stuff, and as you get older, you learn more. And if you slow down, you can start allowing those things to really teach you, so you can practice to become more at peace, become more, a better business owner. The list goes on. But yeah, so that was last week. If you haven't listened to it, highly recommend it. Episode 205. It'll cause you to probably look inside a little bit and maybe even like realize some things. At least I hope so. That was the whole point.
Yeah. And if you listen to it and you feel uncomfortable, that means it's especially for you, because typically we don't like to take inventory of ourselves and what's going on in our own lives. And so it can be a little awkward and uncomfortable to have to actually be honest about some of the things in our lives that we really need to address and fix. And so it might be uncomfortable, but just push through that, because on the other side of uncomfort is a thing called breakthrough. And so you have to go through the discomfort to get to that place. So just sit tight, listen to the whole thing, and it's going to be good. And let us know what you think in the Facebook group. You can email us or what have you. So, Travis, what else is going on, man? I know it's summertime. Things slowing down for you guys there at Make Your Mark Design, sales wise, online still going strong. Do you have more local orders? What is that looking like for you right now?
Yeah, we still getting some local orders. Things online have slowed down. So if you're struggling to make sales online, don't fret. I think that's pretty normal right now, this time of year. There's like not a lot of holidays to buy things for people. And a lot of print on demand is bought as a gift for someone else. Yeah. So that definitely slows it down. A lot of products are bought as gifts, so anytime there's a gift giving holiday, it's not just print on demand sales that go up. It's pretty much all e-commerce sales, because I might buy a t-shirt that has a funny saying on it for somebody, or I might buy them a widget, and so it kind of is a slower season just in general for e-commerce, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be preparing for the busiest of seasons in print on demand, which is Q4. This is kind of an opportunity for us to really get in gear. And I think you mentioned a couple weeks ago, we will eventually have our Get Ready for Q4, Here It Comes podcast that we do every year.
A winter is coming type of podcast that we always do this time of year. But yeah, I remember with What For Apparel, the summer months, it felt like every year Jason would come in and be like, bro, things are so slow. And I'd be like, it's the summer. No one's in front of their computer buying. People are out paddleboarding or playing pickleball or, doing the camping or whatever. And to your point, there's just not a lot of holidays in the summer months that are centered around giving and gifts and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
there is, I will say, and I even thought about doing a whole episode on it. I don't know if we should, but there is something that's coming up that is it's trending a lot, and that's the election in the US for the president. Yeah. And so if you guys follow the news, President Biden just actually backed out of his bid for re-election, and has endorsed Kamala, his vice president. And they're getting ready to do the Democratic National Convention, which will kind of seal the deal for whoever they decide to put as the Democratic candidate. And my point is that everybody's thinking about this. So obviously we want to watch trademarks and we want to watch, copyrights and things like that. But at the same time, this is an excellent time to create a super niche, combine something that's happening, the election, with something else that's funny. That a niche particularly likes, like dogs or cats or whatever, a specific brand of dog. I don't know exactly. I can't give you the particulars of that, but I've told it a million times on the podcast. Back in the day, I did for Valentine's Day, I had a picture of Trump with a wall, and it said, "I want you on my side of the wall." And it was like a Valentine's Day mug, which was happening, and everybody was buying Valentine's Day stuff. And then obviously Trump and the wall and that whole thing, he was very popular for that and famous for that. It was trending in the news. So combining those two things created a ton of sales. So if you can figure out something, you've got one trend. Or you've got one thing that it's on people's minds. If you can combine that with something else, you might find a winner. So give that a shot.
Talk about personalized products. They could just pick their name, because honestly, no one knows who the hell is going to take that spot. And really, it's up to the super delegates, because that's what the DNC has that no other party has, is super delegates. So you just do like super delegates choice. I don't know. But it's going to be wild, and there's going to be plenty of fodder to use for your print-on-demand sales and designs, for sure. So with that being said, let's go into everyone's favorite segment, the weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
All right, Travis, what do you have for us today?
Well, another thing that's trending, and I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole for my print is the Paris Olympics. And so I thought, let's do a thematic dad joke this week. So here's the question for you, Josiah. What does a tick and the Eiffel Tower have in common?
I have no idea.
They're both Paris sites.
That was the wrong bumpers multiple times.
I thought you were like, that was so bad, we're just going into the next segment. That's great.
Oh no. Yeah, that was me pushing a thumbnail that I thought was a different thumbnail, and then it just it went real south from there.
It was not a dad joke, but a faux pas. I don't know. Trying to pressure. That's me.
Yes,
that was me.
Exactly. All right. Well, I jumped the gun a little bit, but hey, we're going to go to the point of interest. After that, we're going to talk about the 5 reasons your POD business is ready to grow. So if you want to know what those 5 reasons are, stay tuned. We're going to get to it in this week's main event. But first, we actually have a point of interest this week, which I'm pretty excited about. So cue the cheesy, romantic, inspirational music.
Point of interest.
All right, Travis, this week's point of interest, we found it actually, and the link's going to be in our show notes, but talking about some print-on-demand statistics and trends for 2024. And there's a lot here that is kind of projected as far as like the compound annual growth rate and stuff like that. But that's not necessarily, I mean, we're going to touch on some statistics here. So anything that is in this 15 stats and statistics that kind of catch your eye, or something that you think is, oh, that's an interesting statistic, or what do you want to highlight here from these 15 stats for about print on demand in 2024?
Yeah, this is coming from the Printful blog, and I thought, I mean, there's several things here, like you said, but number 4 says 25% of consumers say they'd spend more if the product is sustainable, and I thought, wow, that's that's a lot, so, if you were ever thinking about printing on, some bamboo shirts or something like that, or, some type of sustainable fabric for your apparel, or I think when we think about print on demand, or we think about sustainable, we're probably thinking mostly about apparel, but still,
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really interesting. 25% of consumers say they'd spend more money if the product is sustainable.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that? That's just good data to have, and potentially launch a new product or highlight your sustainability of your company or of your product on your listing. There's a lot of things that you could do with that data.
Yeah, 100%. We used to, there was one shirt we did that was kind of that sustainable cotton, or maybe it was All Made, because All Made's pretty eco-friendly, or they make a pretty large to do about them being eco-friendly and sustainable. And so I remember when we brought them in to print some of our shirts on, we did like this thing on our website, and on each product that talked about All Made, their eco-sustainability, because that's the kind of stuff that's obviously certain people are going to be looking for. Some people are very cognizant and aware of the impact that the products can have on the environment. And so that's something that you're going to want to also lead with. To that end, number 5 on this list, the eco-friendly clothing segment will reach 10.1 billion in global annual sales by next year, currently at 6.5 billion. So it's going to be a pretty large increase there, a lot of billions. And so just something to keep aware of. The other thing I thought was interesting on this list, because we talk about, and we are going to talk about in our main event, the 5 reasons your POD business is ready for growth. Adding listings to your stores, to your Amazon stores, to your Shopify, to your Etsy. Number 13 says the most successful POD stores add on average 7 new products to their store monthly. So it says, the top 1% of POD stores add 7 new products every month. And to avoid overcrowded catalogs and customer decision paralysis, they review their offerings regularly. Now, I think that's probably a little more applicable when you're looking at a storefront, maybe an Etsy, maybe a Shopify. Amazon, I don't know necessarily if you're going to review all of your listings and take down ones and kind of constantly recycle. Right. Maybe you do. Sure. But I think that's more if it's like Etsy, Shopify, and you're doing some stores on those platforms. It's good to keep the offerings fresh and then add those 7 new every month.
Yeah, part of that is to avoid analysis paralysis for your customers. You take some products down. We've talked about that in the past. If you're doing a Shopify store, don't launch with 50 products. If you're doing an Etsy store, absolutely launch with 50 products. It's kind of just a different strategy depending on what you're doing. But Shopify in particular, you just don't want to have so many things that a customer comes and they're just like, whoa, I don't even know where to start. So because that is a thing, and they will bounce off your site and go somewhere else and find something. But so I get the idea behind just adding, 7 products or, per month as the average. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. I thought, here's something that I thought interesting. The average print on demand profit margin is 20%. And that's, to me, that seems really low, but I understand it. I think if you're using, like a Printful, and it makes sense that Printful would put this on their list, because it's like, see, you're doing the average. You're doing the average by using us, because, a cat out of the bag. Printful is one of the most expensive ones. They're great. They make a great product. And, their quality is really great. But I think you can do better than 20%, because that's just your gross profit. That doesn't account for your overhead and all of the things that you have to pay for, all the tools and, your internet and your time. And so if you have to continually, eat away at that 20% profit margin, you got to sell a lot for it to really start actually paying you, a decent hourly wage even. So my profit margin, I think I revealed a while back, is anywhere between 35 and 40%. And part of that's my pricing. Part of that's my negotiation, if you will, with my print vendors, and you can actually get there. It just takes some work. So I thought it was interesting that the average print on demand, so that means that some people are making less than 20% on their of profit margin, which would make it hard to do a business. I went through this whole years ago, Robin Johnson, who was on episode 20, I think, years ago, who I just talked to recently, actually.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. I was talked to her a little bit about my business.
The Rocky Mountain Reseller Convention in my Facebook memories, the highlight video from, I think, the second year or something like that, or maybe the third. I think I only went to 2 of them. I don't know, but the recap video that was made during that weekend, and Robin, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this, and clicked on it, and Robin popped up, and I was like, oh, Robin Johnson, and then so I was like, what is she doing these days? Because it's been forever since she's been on the show, and so it's cool that you've talked to her recently.
Yeah. Anyway, she put on this weekend. I think it was in Arizona. Anyway, I went to this, it was kind of a, an intensive, I guess, and business intensive. And I remember, you had to bring your P&L and you had to bring your balance sheet. And we were actually looking at other people's P&Ls and balance sheets and trying to identify health in businesses and unhealth, and where could they trim and where could they, all of this stuff. And it was really interesting. One of the stats that I remember from that weekend is that a healthy gross margin for your business is 30% or more, and a healthy profit margin, so after all your expenses, is 10%. And it's hard to get to 10%. So if you sell $1 million, your profit is 100,000, after all of your expenses and all your stuff. If you just sell 10 million, well, then your profit is $1 million. So, that's pretty cool. But anyway, the whole point being 20% seems low, because it would be difficult to then have a good revenue, your final revenue number, or not revenue number, your final profit number, your after all of your expenses. So anyway, I think we have a couple of episodes on that if you want to dig in deeper to the numbers and kind of get some more into that. You'll have to dig through the archives, because I can't be bothered.
We're not doing it. We're just not going to go. So I mean, there's, like we said, there's a lot more. There's 15 in total here. That if you guys want to look at the whole list, you can click the link in the show notes, and then let us know what you find interesting or something that you want to highlight, and let us on the Facebook group, or email us, or DM us, or whatever you want to do. But the show notes the link will be in the show notes. So, Travis, anything else you want to touch on that list before we move on?
Nope. Go check it out. Take a list, or take a read, and see if anything else gets you some ideas for how to build your store.
All right. Well, let's go to this week's main event.
Main event, main event, main event. Main event, main event, main event. Main event, main event, main event.
All right, we're talking about 5 reasons your POD business is ready to grow. So, Travis, talk to us a little bit about, what this kind of 2 segments, right, to this main event. So kind of give people an overview of what the segment's going to be, and then we'll kind of dig into the specifics of each, and then go from there.
Yeah, the whole idea of this, these 5 reasons, they may seem challenging to you, and they may actually kind of feel like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like I want to flip the script on them, and instead of saying these are your problems, they're actually signs that you're ready to grow. They're actually signs that if you handle some of these things, then the next you're going to start seeing the dial turn a little bit. You're going to start seeing some growth if you can kind of get through some of these things. So instead of seeing them as negatives, let's call back to episode 205 last week. Let's change that. Let's change our perspective and see them as opportunities instead of challenges, or pain points or any of those negative connotation words. Let's change it and say, there's opportunities. These are opportunities for me to grow. And so that was kind of my idea with these 5 things. And then, like you said, at the end, we'll kind of touch on them from a now what perspective and moving forward.
All right. So the first one, for reason or kind of sign maybe that you're ready for growth, is you're only selling on one channel. And typically it's going to be like a merch by Amazon or an Etsy. And maybe you've generated a few sales right at first, but you're barely breaking even because of all the tools that you have that you're using, or the overhead, your time, or the designs, or the research tools you're using, and you're barely breaking even. Or
you're only making a 20% profit margin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Printful said.
Yep. And that could be a reason maybe you're ready to kind of push into that new space, but this might be a reason where I'm only on one channel and I'm barely breaking even. So am I ready for growth? Travis, what's the second one here?
The second one is my favorite topic. You've not spent the time to organize. You don't have any organization in your business yet. Yet is the key word here. So what is your strategy for storing your designs? How do you name those files? Where do you put them? How do you do your SKUs? This goes back to the first one where you're only on one channel. Well, you don't need a new SKU for every channel. Use one SKU for one product and put it on a bunch of channels. That's obviously that's a better organization system than allowing the channel itself to name all the SKUs. And then when you see a sale and there's a SKU there and you're like, I don't know, let's see, let me look at the title. Let me go back to the listing and go, that's the one that I did for moms for Mother's Day last year. And okay, so now I got to go and find that. And so I got to go back to last year's download folder on my computer or whatever, and find open up a bunch of files to figure out which actual design it is. Let's avoid that by putting into place some organization for your business, because that in and of itself will save you so much time, and by default raise your hourly rate because you don't have to spend as much time kind of after the fact. You've done the work up front to where as you move forward you have we're kind of jumping the gun on this, jumping the shark. Thanks, Fonzie. You set into some processes and systems, with your SKUs and with your organization, and it actually will move you forward, which moves us into number 3, Josiah.
Yeah. Scattered processes. So, you don't really have a process for anything. Everything's just kind of happens, and you don't really know how it happens, but you just kind of jump from one thing to another and get things done when they need to be done. But there's really no process. There's no method to the madness. There's just sheer madness. So the questions are, how do you do your research? And how do you get designs created? What's the workflow for getting designs made? Are you doing it yourself? Are you outsourcing that to somebody? How do they know what to make, or how do they know what to look for? And what does that process look like really? How often do you upload? Do you have a process for that? Do you have a routine for how often you're uploading? And how are you marketing? Is it local chamber of commerce stuff? Are you trying to do social media? Are you trying to do all social media platforms? Are you just doing one social media platform? So you need to have some processes to help you refine, for your own sake, how things work, and kind of streamline things so that you don't feel scattered in your own mind when you're approaching things to be done. And then eventually what will happen is when you do that right now, when you do it on the outset, when it's just you, when you begin to bring more people on, when growth comes and you're getting more VAs, or maybe you're hiring someone to come in and help with production if you're doing production, or maybe you're hiring a designer, whatever that looks like, those processes are outlined. And you can then move them on to the person that's coming into that seat and modify it accordingly. But at least there's a very sound, solid structure and starting point for the processes that go into every facet of your business. Because if you don't do that, you will feel super overwhelmed. But that's because you haven't taken all of the things and put them in their place in terms of processes. And so you'll find yourself kind of like, oh, I just don't even know where to start, and kind of walking away from it and then having to come back to it. But a lot of that could be because your processes aren't set in place.
Right. Yeah. And I have a lot to say on that. And we have talked a lot about processes and SOPs, standard operating procedures in the past. But I'll just say it now, even though it's supposed to be in the second part, but, write these things down, open up your computer, take some time and think through the different areas and create a folder somewhere on your computer and call it SOPs or standard operating procedures or processes or whatever. And then in that have subfolders for the different areas of your business that you've just identified. So maybe it's listing, maybe it's design, maybe design processes, listing processes, marketing processes, and then create documents in there that are actually written processes, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that you are thinking through. And these things can change, and that's totally fine, and they probably will over time as you learn more and you can practice new things to become a more successful business person.
Look at that. Look what you did, folks.
I'm calling back to 205.
That's
all
right. I was gonna
day.
say, in business, that's called a callback. And by business, I just mean it is a acting term and a script writing term, but I use it in my everyday life. So I like that just happened. So good job, Travis.
Thank you.
Loving the callbacks. All right, moving on. Number 4, working on your business in spurts, which spurts is one of those words. If you say it multiple times in a row, it's like, that's a weird sounding word. Spurts, kind of like bowl. Bowl. If you get that reference, let me know if you know what that's from. So Travis, talk to us a little bit about spurts. Not spats or spits, but spurts.
Spurts. I should not have written that word. That just totally derailed us.
Talk to us about spurts.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You come home and, from your day job or whatever, and you sit down, you check if you have orders, and then you're like, I should probably work on this design, but I don't want to. And so you just decide I'm going to do something else, or maybe you go a couple of days without even checking to see if you have a sale. You don't even know, you didn't check your business email and see if there's any customer service question. There's no rhyme or reason. You just kind of work on it when you feel like it. And there's several reasons for this. Some of it's personality driven. Maybe you're a little bit more scattered. I'm definitely more scattered than the average person. And so I have to really, really focus on this. The other reason could be you've been doing it so long, and you haven't seen the results that you want. You're just kind of overwhelmed, or you're kind of done with it. You're frustrated. And so it feels like so much work to open up that, email box and find out that there's no emails, or look at your sales data and find out, man, I only sold one thing on Merch by Amazon, and that's it, or whatever. And so you just don't even mess with it, and then I guess there's a third reason. Some of the channels that you can sell on, like a Merch by Amazon or Amazon Merch on Demand, are a little bit more hands-off. I mean, because it's a royalty-based platform, you really don't have to worry about the customer service or anything. As long as you uploaded it right, if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's mailbox money at that point, for the most part. But you're not moving forward because you're just working on it in spurts, or you're just working on it when you feel like it. And so, do you even have a schedule for this thing? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Do you stick to it? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I feel like if you can overcome that, there is some opportunity for you on the other side if you put into practice the things that will help you become a more successful businessman or woman.
You devil.
So basically, the point of that is that working in spurts hurts if you aren't. 5. You're doing all
Number
the work,
5.
doing all the work yourself. In 2 episodes, episode 204, we talk about how to hire a virtual assistant. But I mean, I feel like a lot of these, you're working in spurts. Um, you're doing all the work yourself, and the lack of really laying out the processes. I feel like the three of those are all they feed each other. All of those issues
Sure. 100%.
can really be a vicious cycle where you're overwhelmed because you're doing it in spurts. We're doing it in spurts because you're scattered, and you're scattered because you're doing everything yourself. And so all three of those can get really, really septic and toxic very quickly.
Right.
It's all happening at once. But if you're doing all the work of yourself, you are limiting your ability to really work on the business instead of always working in the business. And we talk about that difference a lot. And so being able to hire somebody, a VA, would kind of take some of those really repetitive, logistic kind of number crunching, bookkeeping tasks off of your plate and allow you to kind of think of other ideas, whether it's marketing, designs, doing more research, or kind of having like to Travis's point earlier, your thumb on the pulse of things that are happening in culture and capitalizing with designs to help. It takes a lot. You got to pay attention, and if you're bogged down on some things, you may not actually have time to execute the things you're witnessing. So that's another huge one. Again, episode 204, we talk a lot about that. So moving on, Travis, to this kind of like what now part of the main event, giving some I guess tips or insights or advice to those 5 areas and things that people can do, and getting a little more in depth. Obviously, we're going to reference at the end of this. There's an episode where we go kind of a little bit deeper in some of these areas, but kick us off, man, on the second half of kind of the now what part.
Yeah, I mean, if the first one was you're only selling on one channel, well, the obvious thing is to open a new, transition to a second marketplace. Now, this obviously doesn't require, but it would help if you were organized before you did that and you knew your SKU naming structure and, all of that stuff. At the same time, having a second marketplace, we talk about this a lot. These are your assets. These designs are your assets. There's no reason that you shouldn't put them on another marketplace or even another product. A lot of coffee mug designs go great on t-shirts and vice versa. And a lot of t-shirt designs go great on, wall art or, so there's a lot of different things that you can start to do that will expand your internet real estate footprint, if you will. And one of them, in my opinion, one of the biggest ones is a second marketplace, because even if you don't put it on a new product, you do have certain assets already, not just the actual design, but the mock-ups that you created for that first, marketplace. Just reuse them. If you are a Merch by Amazon, unfortunately, you don't have those mock-ups, but get a software program like Placeit, and it's very simple to use. It's very easy. It's very intuitive. And you can go to printondemancast.com/Placeit, and we'll get a small kickback if you want to subscribe via that link. But it's not expensive. It's really easy to use. And you can start making these mock-ups to then prepare to go to another channel. So maybe if you're only selling on Merch by Amazon, it's time to open an Etsy. If you're only selling on Merch by Amazon and Etsy, maybe it's time to look into Amazon. I know everyone's like, for whatever reason, people are really nervous about Amazon and they think that it's going to be very difficult. And honestly, it's the 800-pound gorilla. And sometimes they do weird things, but most of the e-commerce sales that are happening in the US in particular are happening on Amazon. They're not happening on Etsy. Yeah, Etsy has a lot of sales. Merch by Amazon is on Amazon. So, yeah. I mean, there's just a whole reason here to think through expanding your marketplaces, and particularly also your products, if that is kind of a next step for you. Even Walmart. Walmart is open the floodgates for new sellers. Now, yes, there are some things that you have to jump through, hoops that you have to jump through. You can learn all about that in our Facebook group and in previous podcasts. You can ask a question on our Facebook group. How do I get onto Walmart? What are the things I need to look for? And you'll get answers. So really the only thing holding you back from joining these other marketplaces is most likely it's just fear. It's you don't know
Yeah.
what to expect. You don't know the process to do it. And so you just don't, it could be time, it could be other things, but I really do think for the most part, those are excuses. You just don't understand how to do it. So reach out, find out how to do it, and go do it.
Yep. And talking about scattered processes, if you're in that space as well,
Mhm.
I referenced it a little bit in terms of the social media aspect or marketing. Like, what are you doing? Where are you doing it? And establishing that process. We've talked a lot about, maybe don't go on every platform and try and post every day on every platform. Maybe it is you focus on one. I've talked about, TikTok was very successful for me. Instagram was successful for us with for apparel. But maybe you just dial in on one platform before expanding to all of them, and just go all in on one, and using calendars, Buffer, Later, those kinds of programs to help schedule out these things in advance, so you can make everything in bulk and then just schedule it out. And I know that Meta is able to do that now with Facebook and Instagram, which is nice. But if you're wanting something that reaches multiple platforms, there's other programs like that as well. And Travis, I know you'd been talking to me recently about paid ads on social media. I think Facebook is what you were particularly looking at in terms of the paid ads, but talk a little bit about how that could be advantageous for people that are wanting to maybe go all in on that Facebook platform.
Yeah, if you have a Shopify store, Facebook still actually works. You have to test a lot. If you don't want to test, if you don't want to spend the time to learn about which products people want and which demographics are buying products, it's probably not for you if you don't want to really dig into the data and understand and spend enough to allow Facebook to start serving your ads to the right people. Because when you first start a Facebook ad, you're in the learning phase, or Facebook is in the learning phase, because they're learning about this demographic that you've just created by your targeting. And so over time, it'll get better at serving the ads to people that are more likely to buy your product. But even then, you'll still have losers. You'll still have things that just don't go well. I have talked a lot about a Shopify store that I ran for Father's Day, did okay, learned a lot, but I'm getting ready to relaunch as we get closer and closer to the gift giving season. I feel like I've given Facebook enough information to where it knows who to serve these particular ads to. So when I turn it back on, it's kind of like I'm picking up where I left off. And then as more and more people are actually buying online, hopefully that's going to translate to a better conversion rate on those different products. If you're selling on Amazon, there's sponsored ads. Those are super easy to set. You can, again, all of these paid ads, they don't require testing, but you will have better results if you actually do test. But Amazon has them, Etsy has them. Etsy doesn't have as many features that you can actually test. And it's kind of like, do you want to advertise it? Yes or no? And that's kind of it. You don't have a whole lot of, basically Etsy handles all of the targeting and who they're going to actually put the product in front of. But even Walmart has ads. So if you are really wanting to go deep into down the rabbit hole, paid ads is another way that you can start to market some of your better selling products to give them a larger exposure and potentially increase not only the actual sale from the ad, but when an algorithm, and Etsy is an algorithm, Amazon's an algorithm, Walmart's an algorithm, Google is an algorithm. When an algorithm finds something that people like and they start buying, Facebook, they're going to learn that they need to rank this higher. So it's theoretically and probably truthfully going to also boost your organic reach. So free sales that you didn't have to pay for should be coming more and more as you get sales from your advertising.
Right.
So that's just another way, as we talked about, how are you going to market in your processes that are kind of scattered? That's another way that you can go about doing that.
Awesome. Also, putting yourself on a schedule. I know, Travis, you mentioned that as well, but talk a little bit about like people setting goals or how many designs per week or listings created per week, and kind of getting that routine and regimen kind of solidified there.
Yeah, I mean, I have a schedule, a calendar that I kind of live by, and I put everything on it. And I have times that I call focus times, and I focus on a specific task. I might even go into that calendar, and in the notes section of that particular task, I might make a to-do list that these are the things I want to accomplish during this time. So, I mean, you can get as granular as you want. And I think for me, it helps a ton to have a little reminder that says, okay, it's time for your focus time. And then I can open that up and see, okay, this is when I wanted to do some more listings. This is when I wanted to email this particular client about this particular thing, or whatever the thing is that I need to do. It's right there for me. So spending a little time, maybe on a Monday, what's my week look like, and you put your day job in there. So you're not, you don't have a bunch of holes in your calendar, and then you just take your time, take other times, put your dinner time, put your family time, all of this stuff on here to where you can see the holes and see where the potential is for you to be able to work on your business, and then just fill those. You don't have to do every waking moment thinking about your business, but work backwards. Establish a quota for how many listings, how many designs, what I want to do for a week, what are some ideas, and then work backwards from that to determine, okay, that means if I want to have this many things in a month, well, I need to do this many things in a week. And if I need to do this many things in a week, then I need to have this many things per day. Yeah. And so it's constantly planning, and it goes back to kind of your processes and things like that. Put it on your calendar. On Monday morning at 7 a.m., I'm going to create 10 tasks for myself this week. And then I'm going to store them in different places on my calendar, and I'm going to finish them up. And, one of those tasks is make mock-ups for listing A. One of those tasks is create listing for the things mock-ups that you made on Monday, or, or it's go into Etsy and research with Everbee, 10 listing ideas for new designs and new products or something like that. So there's a whole lot of things that you could be doing, but because you're overwhelmed, because you haven't seen the fruit, you've kind of slowed down a little bit, and you're just kind of over it. But if you make yourself plan, it's a lot easier to do later. So make your plan your most important part of your week, because then that will flow into your doing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Love it. And then hire first virtual assistant. We talked about that again, last 2 episodes ago. But there's a lot of people that might be like, well, I don't have the money to hire a VA. Well, it depends. Honestly, we talk about online jobs PH all the time. And it's very inexpensive for us, a good living for them, to get people who can do quality work, more than quality, like stellar work. Travis and I have both used a designer for a very long time that we found on onlinejobs.ph, and he does a lot of our graphic design work, and he does a stellar job, and the work that he does. But it can be a catch-22 situation, as is most things with growth, right? I think it's like a chicken or the egg type thing. I remember having conversations like, well, we can't do this until we get more of, we can't do X till we get more of Y. And it's like, well, we won't get more of Y unless we have X. You know what I mean? So it's that tension. And so, hiring a VA can help facilitate you working on other things in your business that can create more revenue or more money coming in, or you have more time to list more things depending on what the VA is doing, or they're doing it for you while you're sleeping. They're listing things on Amazon or Etsy or whatever that looks like. And so that will create an inflow of cash just because of the volume that they're able to do that you're not able to do from a time constraint, if you're doing this as a side hustle for now, or if it's just you working on it. So again, it's catch-22, which is the case with a lot of growth scenarios, I think.
Yeah, I don't have the money because I don't have any sales. Well, you don't have any sales because you don't have any listings.
Yeah.
And what if you paid somebody to do some listings? Would you have sales then? I don't know, but it's worth a shot, you know? and the thing is, you could start with small tasks. You know, you don't have to like hire a full-time VA right out of the gate. You know, just have them help you create that SKU spreadsheet with all of your designs and your SKUs and your titles and your bullets and all of that stuff. You know, we talk, I always reference episode 10 because I kind of lay out how I've done it with, you know, the way I do designs and the way I do your store, or the way I store designs and the way I, you know, have a SKU structure and all of that. And I mean, we have millions of SKUs. I'm sorry, hundreds of thousands of SKUs. I think we have 1 million now. Honestly, I think we might have crossed the 1 million mark. I don't know, but my point is that there was no chance we would have ever had that many if we didn't have a system, if we didn't have an organizational system. So have a virtual assistant help you put that. Well, you put the spreadsheet together and have them fill it out. Do a job. Don't hire this VA and just see how it feels. See how it works. See how much you spend. See how you feel afterwards. And like, oh man, it's so glad. I've been hearing Travis since episode 10 talk about my SKU structure. And I've just been carrying this incredible weight of guilt and shame around it. And so now it's free. You're free to, I'm kidding, of course, but see how you feel after you have that task accomplished by somebody else. And you come back and you're like, wow, this is done. This is awesome. You'll get addicted to that feeling. I promise, you know, so set aside a little bit of money to have somebody else do a small task. Again, it is a catch-22. You know, you don't have the money because you don't have the sales, but maybe you don't have the sales because you haven't paid the people, you know, you haven't used that money. So set aside a little money and try it and see how it feels. You know, have somebody design 5 designs around a single trending topic, you know, get some ideas, you know, have somebody go and do some research for you, have them use Everbee or whatever, and come back to you and give you 5 ideas for different designs. Those types of things, very, very inexpensive, very easy to set up. We talk a lot on episode 204 about Upwork, super simple platform. You can pay them by the task or by the hour, depends on what the task is and what you're comfortable with. They even have time tracking software for the VA when they're working on an hourly basis. I mean, there's just a whole lot of reasons to do it. And the only reason I can see to not do it is that you don't have the money. And so if you can overcome that one obstacle, I do feel like this is an opportunity to move your business forward.
Absolutely. So that's it for the kind of what now. Again, if it all sounds familiar, check out episode 172 of the 4 personality types of print-on-demand entrepreneurs. We kind of dig a little bit deeper there as well. So, Travis, anything else just in general that you want to touch on before we send this one home?
Yeah, and those 4 personality types on episode 172, it's the curious, the rookies, the seasoned, and the thriving. And this podcast really was kind of taken from the rookies. It's kind of like, what are the defining traits of a rookie? You've started, but you're not quite there yet, whatever there is to you. And then from there, it's kind of a what next. And we talk about each of those different personality types or different stages, I guess, of your print-on-demand business. And we talk specifically to their defining traits, like how do you identify if you're in this stage? And then what do you do to get out of that stage and into the next one? And so, like I said, this one was kind of the rookies or stage 2, if you will. So go check out episode 172 if you haven't already, and learn a little bit more, maybe self-identify after you've listened to episode 205. You can practice and become. So,
He did it again.
I did it again.
He's done it again. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We're so excited and honored to have you guys with us each and every week. We look forward to being back with you next week. But until then, here's some things you can do. Of course, you go to printondemandcast.com/VIP and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. We're not going to spam you. not in an email form, or we're not going to send you spam either, the meat in the can. No spam involved. It's one extra email a week. You'll get some more tidbits, tips, insights, wisdom, some sharing that's stuff that's on the show, maybe going deeper on some stuff, maybe seeing some stuff that you won't see on the show, and an extra dad joke every week. And then in exchange for that, for signing up for that, I will give you the annual design calendar. Again, Q4 is on the horizon. The holiday season is upon us. There's lots of holidays coming up that you can capitalize on. And so that calendar will help you create the system and the schedule to keep you on track. And if you have subscribed and haven't gotten that calendar yet, let us know. Reply to the email and say, hey, what gives? Where is my calendar? Because I can't practice. I can't do the things I need to do without the design calendar, man. You're holding me back, and we'll get that remedied for you right away. So, Travis, last thoughts again on anything, or are you good to go?
I'm good to go. I just want to once again encourage you to go listen to episode 205 if you haven't. And if you did listen to 205, shoot us an email or post in the Facebook group and say, hey, this is what I thought about it. This is what it brought up in me. And this is what I'm practicing now as a result. So I would love to hear your feedback, guys, on that episode. If you want to hear more of mindset type episodes in the future as well, would love to pick your brain. So reach out. Yeah, it's really easy to reach out.
I was just going to
go ahead.
No, it is easy to reach out. There's tons of ways to reach out. We're reachable in every way, on every platform. But I was just going to say, if you guys want more of that kind of mindset approach episodes to kind of help with the approach to business, maybe not the logistics, but, feel like, man, I kind of feel like I'm in a funk. How do I get out of this? Or how do I mentally, get out of this space that I've been in? We'd be happy to have more episodes like that as well. So let us know. Facebook group, Instagram, reply to the email when you subscribe, printondemancast.com/VIP, and we will talk to you there. But until then, for Travis, I'm Josiah. We'll see you next week right here on the Print on Demand Cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.
In a world where businesses everywhere are trying to make print-on-demand sales, one podcast goes above and beyond every week to bring the most POD-specific information there is, all to help save the day, every day. Don't succumb to the enemies of your print-on-demand business. Sign up today for the Print on Demand Cast VIP email at printondemandcast.com/VIP. This time, it's for real.